section that we already have our front end and then the back end up and running on our VPS Oracle Cloud Server, and with our Docker container running. So I'm going to demo this again to recap our application. So remember that we need to firstly check if our Docker is running on our device server or not. No, currently not. So we are going to use the Docker compose and Docker and pointing to our Docker compose file .yaml, and then we just use it as detach mode, and we don't need to rebuild it, so we are not going to use build. Okay, so that's it. It's not correct. -d. I need to use up and -d. Let's go. Detach mode. Not sure. Okay, I need a three. We firstly need to get into our project folder. That's why we couldn't do that, is that the Docker couldn't really recognize our Docker compose file, so that it is not able to start up this service. So let's do this again. Sudo docker compose -f docker compose.yaml -d up. Still not working. Okay, now it is running on 3000 for our front end, and we are waiting for the backend ready. Okay, now you can see that the backend is ready, listening on port 3001, so that we can get to our web page to see if everything is working fine. Okay, as you can see now that our front-end page is working now, we can fetch the data and then we can change the data. Let's try Eric, change the name from Eric to Eric Olsan as well, and then the credential will be colorful live as usual. Submit. Okay, so you can see that name of Derek changed to Eric Awesome, so it's awesome, and everything is working fine. So that let's get back to what we are going to do in this section. This is the overall idea of the this section. uh, when user send the request to our server, and then it is usually following the HTTP protocol, which is 80 port, right? But our service is listening on port 3001. That's the reason that we need to exactly point out the 3000. Okay, excuse me, this one is 3000, and then this is 3001. That is exactly why we need to exactly like explicitly pointing out the 3000 at the end of the URL IP, right? So in this case, we don't want to let user to just point explicitly writing down the port 3000. We just want them to simply input the URL address, and then our website can redirect the IP address or the web page URL to our port 3000. That's how Nginx is going to work for us. That is why the Nginx comes into play. Okay, let's get into the Nginx page here. As we mentioned, the Nginx is able to help us to redirect the 80 port to 3000 port, right? That is one of the function of Nginx called proxy server. So as can be seen in the documentation here, one of the frequent uses of Nginx is setting up as a proxy server, which means the server that receives requests pass them to proxy server, receive response from them, and then send them to clients. Okay, that's exactly what we are going to use. And firstly, we need to install Nginx. Let's get to the Nginx documentation and to see how we can install this. Okay, where I can do that. Start pin, configure start pin. Let's get to the Nginx homepage, and this is, and probably check on the updated version, and we just go back to Google and search Nginx. And then we go to the oh no, this one is Nginx. I think what we should do is There should be an installation section for us. I cannot really get it. Okay, here. And we are going to use the Linux, right? So packages, and we are in the Ubuntu. Okay, and we just ignore the very basic setting, and then go ahead to the apt install section, and then to see if it is working. Okay, so we are going to open a new terminal and then SSH into our Oracle Cloud server, and then install the Nginx. Okay, I think it is working fine. Okay, cool. And let's check if the Nginx is running fine by the system control status and Nginx. Okay, now as you can see, the Nginx now is running as a system daemon here. Now we can start working and then do the setting. So let's go to the Nginx setting. Nginx, once the Nginx is installed, and then we will be able to access the Nginx directory by the /etc/nginx, I believe, and then under the Nginx folder we will see the project, I mean the Nginx setting file, config file. So what we will be using are the site available and the site available and site enabled. So let's go into the sites available, and you can see here is the default. So default is just the setting example that the Nginx provide us to let us reference, and then we can reference to the default and then customize it as our own setting. So we can just go ahead and get into this to check the example cat default. Okay, and as you can see, okay, and then you can see here you should look at the following URLs in order to grab the solid understanding of Nginx configuration file in order to fully unleash the power of Nginx. So let's get to, so that's it. This file will automatically load blah blah blah. See the document example. Okay. So as can be seen, this one is the old example of the Nginx, and the example is just I will explain this one. This in this server, because each setting site available is a server, so we will have the server block in this site available, meaning this server is ready for listening to certain port or certain website. So in this case, this is the server and listening to port 80, and this is a default server. If we don't define this one, it will be set as listening to 80 port as well, and this one is the IP, the 80 port as well, but for IPv6. And the following will be the SSL setting, and then we don't need to do this for now because we are going to certificate the SSL through the third-party certification library called Certbot, and then we will get into that soon later. And then I think that's all. So in this case, this is just example. Let's check if anything else. Okay, there is nothing else. And now we have our Nginx running, and then let's go back to see what happens when we again get into our 80 port. As I mentioned, if we don't explicitly point out the port, it will be the 80 port, and it is not reachable. So I think we need to do something like system control sudo system control restart Nginx. Okay, after googling around, I found out the issue, which the issue is because that the port 80 is not open in the Ubuntu system-wide setting, because I have just checked like the Oracle setting, and then I found out this setting is all correct. We can go to networking and then see the virtual cloud networks, and then get into our virtual network, and then we would see the subnet setting and get to the security roles, and we can see that our TCP port 80 is allowed. So the issue is definitely not from the Oracle setting. So I have checked a lot of articles in Google, and then I found out here somebody has the same issue as I did just before, and then we can see that there is a firewall setting, and then just as we did, we need to configure the route of the port 80, and then we can check if the port of the Nginx is accessible through the local net. Let's try. Now it is available on the local net because we can see the HTML text, plain text here, and then we need to use the IP table instead of using the UFW command, because it will cause the Oracle firewall issue. So we are going to use the IP tables. Let's try this one. And it seems been okay. So this seems to be the command accepting the port 80 in the system wise. Okay, and we probably go for this one as well. We can do it later. Let's check it if it is working by just using only this command. Okay, since no. Okay, so let's get to this one. Okay, let's check. Oh no, not this one. This 80, right? Okay, now you can see it is working. We can see the welcome page of the Nginx, and then this is the website representation of the HTML plain text, as we just did right here. Okay, so now we have already made sure that Nginx is running correctly. So now let's get back to this Nginx setting again to see if it. Okay, let's go to this page again. Let me clean up this one and then sh into our Oracle -2. Okay, and so this is much easy to see what we are doing now. So left part is our local desktop, and right part is our Oracle Cloud VPS. And let's get into the Nginx setting. Okay, so that's all we need to do for now. Okay, now what we are going to do next is to make a domain for our website, because it is very difficult to remember the IP address here, right? So it is much easier to just input a human recognizable plain text instead of using the IP address. So we are going to use the domain. You can use any domain you have, but we are going to use I have my own domain, so I'm going to apply for a subdomain for this website. Just a second, let me get to my domain. So my domain is this, the deveric.mo. You can use whatever domain you have from GoDaddy or the Namecheap or Versal Netlify, something, whatever you want. But this one, freenom, is what I'm going to use. And then we just go into a manage free free, and we can call it like tech Nginx test, right? Nginx test, and then target is the our newly created IP address, the Oracle VPS IP address here, like this. Nginx test, okay. So the record ended successfully, but it might take a while to take effect. So it might not work immediately, but let's try. So now we should be able to use the something like Nginx test dot dev eric dot mo. Okay, it seems still not working for now, but it will be working later, I believe. Be available soon later. So let's go back to the code again, and then we are going to use I'm gonna explain what it is. So for now, we just used IPv4 IP address with the 80 port to access the Nginx server, and then Nginx responds HTML plain text to our browser. So that's the first step, and then second step is what we did. We have created a new domain for which is representing our IPv4 IP address, so we can just access the Nginx proxy server through entering the nginx-test.dev-eric.mo to access our Nginx server. And then the next part will be creating the Nginx proxy server function. I mean, using the Nginx proxy server function to redirect our request to our port, the Docker container port 3000, and then get the response from our front end container and redirect it to user. That's what we are going to do now. So here we are going to get into the site available. Sites available. Okay, and now we are going to create a new one which represents our new domain, which is the which is named nginx-test-dev-eric.mo. This one I need to use the root. nginx-test-dev-eric.mo. Okay, now we have this new one, and we are going to create the routing setting for our newly created file. So we use sudo nano nginx.test.dev dev Eric demo. Okay, then we can get to the documentation of Nginx, and then get to the proxy, simple proxy server section, and we copy maybe this one, and let's see what does it mean. We don't need this. What does it mean? This location means, as we mentioned, that we probably need to define the lesson, right? Normally we define the lesson and a key, but in this case we don't need to define the AT because it is default port, and the location is the URL that we want user to input. So slash means the URL followed by only one slash, and the proxy path, this is important part, which directory that which directory in our local host that we want to allow user or allow our Nginx proxy to redirect to. In this case, we want to redirect the request to our 3000 port, right? And then this part we don't need it anymore. So I think that's everything we need for now. Okay, let's set this one, and then see if our domain is now available or not. Oh, okay, now our domain is now working. So as you can see that once we input the nginx-test.deveric demo, and then we can see our page, right? And now what we are going to do is go back to our Visual Studio Code, and then disable that welcome page and enable our nginx test.dev-eric demo. Okay, simply speaking, we just go back one level and then get into the site enable. Where is the site? Okay, sites enabled. Okay, so now what we have, the site we are now enabling is the default site, but we are not going to use the default, so we will going to delete this one. But before that, we are going to enable the one we just created. Now how to do that? We just need to create a symbolic link between this site available and the site enable. So you remember that we just create the file inside the sites available called nginx-test.dev-eric demo, and we need to create a symbolic link between between the one in the sites available and the one in the sites enabled. Okay, symbolic link is using aln-s and point out which file that we need to link with, and that in this case it is in the site available slash, remember, is the what is this? Well, Nginx test.dev.slash eric.mo. I think that is it. Enter. And then after doing so, you will see this one is connected here, and then we can delete the original one by simply just input the remove default. Okay, now the only one left is this one, so let's get back to see. Before getting back to see if it is working, we need to reload the Nginx server by inputting system control reload Nginx. Okay, so let's get back to see if it is working. No, so it must be somewhere wrong. Let's get into the setting to see. Okay, I think there is something wrong with is something typo. Nginx dash test. That's weird. Why do we have two Nginx dash Nginx slash? Okay, it is actually a typo. So let's remove this one. Okay. CD back to sites enabled, and we need to delete. This is test, right? Okay, test is right, but the original one was not correct. We need to correct this one. Sudo nano. This is empty one. Right, this is empty one because this is the correct one. So what we need to do is copy this and delete this. Remove, and then we need to sudo nano this, and then pass the one we pass the test, the setting content we just copied, and Y. So let's go back to see. Now the Nginx that test div eric.mo is actually link with our correct file inside this site enable. Okay, and then we need to reload the service. Sudo system control reload Nginx, and then go back to check if it is working, and then it shows it is working actually, but it says that it is bad gateway, so it means that we do not set the configuration correctly. So let's get back to our setting again to see where is it wrong. Sites available. Okay, and remember that we need to enable the service, right? We forget to enable our Docker service. So let's go to the project. Oh, this one is another terminal for the Oracle Cloud Service. So now we have two terminals opened for the Oracle Cloud Server. One is this one, and another one is this one. So I'm going to turn on our Docker inside the Oracle Cloud Service in this terminal by just clicking by inputting sudo docker compose -f docker compose .yaml up. Well, we are not in the correct directory. We need to get into the correct directory here, and then input in exactly the same command again. And as you can see now, we are going to open the port 3000 first, and then for our front end, and then right after that the port 3001 will be opened for our backend here. Then we can go back to see if this is working. Perfect, it is working fine, but there is something. Let's see. Okay, anyway, this has already been enabled here. I think the WebSocket is not working because I don't open the WebSocket port. But for now, the normal AT port is already redirect to our port 3000, right? So it means that we send the request from our browser with the port HTTP protocol to the Nginx server in our cloud, the Oracle Cloud, and then the Nginx server redirect our request to our Next.js front end, which is in port 3000, and then it also get the response from port 3000 to our Nginx, and then send out the response to our browser. So that is the route. That is the route, how it work, how it pass. Okay, let's get back, and then we can see if it is working. It is working fine. and then we can see if we can mutate the information. So as usual, we change the name from Eric to Eric Awesome, and then the password will be the same, colorful life. Let's try submit. Okay, awesome. So you can see the Eric has already, the username of Eric has already been changed to Eric Awesome. That is exactly what we want, and then with our domain. Okay, now we have already changed this one to our something like http Nginx test dev Eric Damo, right? But it is not set, right? Using the http is equal to sending the plain text to our server. So everything from our browser to the Nginx server in our cloud is all something like plain text. So if anybody is able to catch your TCP packet, and he or she will be able to see all the credential information inside our TCP packet. For example, we just send out the colorful live password from our browser to our Nginx front end, right? This is the one we just sent out. The text, the credential that we just sent out was in the plain text format. It's very dangerous. That is why we need to use the SSL certification for more safe and secure approach. That is called HTTPS. In this case, we need to make the HTTP to HTTPS. How do we do that? We can use the open source library called certbot, this one, and then this certbot can help us to create a SSH certification. And how do we use this? Okay, we go to the certbot instruction and input what we are going to use. We are going to use Nginx, and on which system we are using the Ubuntu 20, and it is going to show us what we need to have. First, we need to comfort with the command line. Yes, we do. And then we need to have the HTTP website. Yes, we do have, right? We just have one. And yeah, these three we do, right? And then the site is hosted on the server. Yes, it did, in the Oracle VPS. We can access through HSS. Of course, we did everything through HSS with ability to sudo. Yes, we do. And wildcard cert and DNS credential. And this is probably optimal option, so we don't need to take care of this. And the next step is get into the SSH and install the snap. I believe there are some other options, but it recommends us to do it through this snap. But okay, so we just follow the instruction here to install snap. Okay, how do we install snap? Might be this one. Okay, no, not that one, this one. Well, this is not good. This is for installing the system, not installing snap. Install demons. How do we do so? Okay, snap is pre-installed and ready to go following, but we are using this one, right? So let's see if it is now available in our distribution. Okay, let's get back to the snap version. Oh, cool. Now we do have snap. So that is, as it mentioned, we already have the pre-installed version in our distribution, so we don't need to install anymore. And then we need to ensure our version of snap is up to date. Okay, let's try sudo snap install core, refresh core. Seems that we have to do some update, but it seems we don't need to take much time on it. It is good. Okay, in the meantime, let's get to the next step. Usable to and usable OS package. If you have any server package installed using OS package manager like apt, dnf, or yum, we should remove. We don't have this. Precisely speaking, we haven't installed it through such kind of package management system, so we just skip this stage. And then the most important part is install Cerbot. Okay, we just copy this and then pass it on our terminal. Pretty cool. It start installing very fast. Things seem going well. In the meantime, as been seen, Cerbot already installed. Perfect. And prepare the servo command. Do we really need to do such things? Well, we just follow the documentation anyway. So let's see Cerbot if we can use the command line. Seems not. Well, cool. Servbot seems working, but they got the permission denied, but we don't need to care about it. But what we can be sure is that servbot is okay. The servbot is again typo. Let's see the version. It should be working. Okay, cool. We have the servbot running in our distribution, everything working fine. And then next is the most important part. We need to certify our server with our website. Let's see servbot. We firstly see what we should do. Servbot help. Okay, here is a --Nginx. What does it mean? Use the Nginx plugin for authentication and installation. I think this is what we need. And is there anything that we are going to do? Okay, I think it's this one. -D domains. Commemorated list of domain authentication 4. Domain 4. Okay, we do have the certain domain, right? Okay, so it means that which domains that we are going to give it a certification. In this case, it is the Nginx test very demo, right? Okay, so let's go for this. Sudo certbot -Nginx-D, and this is important, Nginx-test.dev eric.mo. We need to double confirm if everything is right without typo. Okay, let's go for it. Well, it seems working well. Save debug log to this here. Enter the email address. Okay, let's input my email address, which is contact@dev-eric.mo. Please read the term. Of course it is correct. We just leave it empty if we agreed of that, because this default is yes. Okay, we agreed no, we probably need to do that. Yes. Would you be willing to share your email address with the Electronic Frontier Foundation, a funding partner of Black Ink project, and then non-profit organization? Or probably not for now. Well, I think it is the most, so we need to do it again. So what does it mean? Successfully received the certificate saved to here. This will be updated. New. Could not install certificate. Next step. Could not install. After fixing it, this error shown below, try installing it again by running this. Okay. Let's try this. Probably we need to use sudo and make sure there is no typo on Nginx.test. No, it is not working. Why? Okay, I understand. I got it. Where is the issue? We need to get back to our setting here. So I will point out where is it go wrong. Sudo anon nginx test down. Okay, here actually we do need to define one thing for Nginx to recognize the server. Let's go back to the Nginx guide and let's see if we have well, it should have a server name. Well, not here. Well. Okay, that's not good. Nginx server name. Here. Okay, so server name are defined using server underline name directive and determine which server block is used for a given request. So this is very clearly explained why we have this issue, right? So we don't even define this so that the server cannot recognize which server block is belong to that domain. So if you are interested in it, we can check the line here, but we just need to know how we should do next. In this section, we just need to define the server name here. So let's go back and define the server name, and then space with our domain call Nginx test Death Eric. No, that's it. I think it should be working, and before going to next step we need to refresh the service again. Okay, it failed, so it must be somewhere setting that miss. Okay, I got it. I forgot the semicolon again, which I always do. Okay, again, so let's reload the service. Cool, it is reloaded. And then what we need to do is again sudo servbot install the certification for our application, the subdomain, right? It should be going through for this time, I believe. Perfect. 70 bug log. Deploying certification. Successfully deployed the certification for our application. Perfect, perfect. Okay, let's go to see the setting again. Cat. Wow, it's changed, right? Automatically, and we even didn't do anything, and then Starboard handle all this for us. It listens to 443 port, which is SSL port, which is managed by Starboard, and it has something detailed things we don't need to care about. It also create a new server block for us, saying that if the host is from Nginx test this application, this domain, and it will return the 301 host request. But this one I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. Listen to 80 port, return 404. Okay. It means that if the host is here, we return the correct one, but if this is not correct, it's not from here, we return the 404 error. So let's see if it is working. Okay, make sure that our Docker is still running here, right? And we have SSL as well, and then go back, and then let's go to our service, and then we use the HTTPS. Still not working. Why? Remember that we need to open up the port of 443 as we tap down for port 80, right? Just recap that what we did before, because the 443 is the SSL port. We didn't open that in the system wise. So what we need to do is to open this one through the IP tables command. And we can come back to see if the HTTPS can be working fine. What's this? Call that Nginx -test. I think it's this one. Whoa, so it is working. So as you can see, we now have our server ready on the production domain with the SSL certification, which is safe in the internet. that is what we have done for today. We make exactly this exactly application the same as this one. So thanks for your attention, and then if it helps you, please click the like button. Thanks.